In connection with the boomer question, I have this to say. It is a shameful spectacle to see how the whole democratic world is oozing sympathy for the poor offended boomers, but remains hard-hearted and obdurate when it comes to providing political solutions which may address the actual problems they have created. The arguments that are brought up as an excuse for not improving the boomers' nations actually argue for the cause of the suffering millennials and zoomers. For this is what they say. 1. We, that is the democracies, we cannot afford to rein in liberal values. Yet in these nations, there is not a single town or square without a hedonistic parade of fetishized sexual display in full view of women and children, while there is not a single healthy, family-oriented cultural product demonstrating and advocating for a healthy lifestyle, sexuality, and family. 2. They assure us we cannot fully address these issues as we do not have the required capital to do so. Yet the boomers steadily deplete our national coffers year after year with their rambunctious greed. The stream of money they are willing to pour out on ever-increasing foreign elements is not a hair short of endless. For decades upon decades, our nation was kind enough to suffer the effects of the boomer policies, although they conserved and produced nothing except total foreign subservience and economic disaster. What they possess today, they have by a very large extent gained at the cost of the less astute generations by the most reprehensible manipulations. Today we are merely paying this generation what it deserves. When younger generations were, thanks to the inflation instigated and carried through by boomers, deprived of the entire savings which they had accumulated in years of honest work. When the rest of the world took away the millennials' investments, when we were divested of the whole of our hope for a prosperous future, these philanthropic considerations evidently carried little noticeable weight with our democratic boomer statesmen. Today, I can only assure these gentlemen that thanks to the brutal education with which the boomers provided for us these last 50 years, we are completely hardened to all attacks of sentiment. After nearly every person below 30 has had their hopes of a better national future crushed by the boomer, we witnessed the demolishment of nearly every single beautiful construction in our very own city, in accordance with the cruel paragraphs of a dictate which the humane democratic apostles amongst the boomers forced upon us in the name of economic development. We witnessed our beautiful historical churches torn down and replaced by the most hideous of concrete slabs. We witnessed economic weasels and heathen socialists take over and destroy our once beautiful city in their own loyal schemes of economic fraternity. We had to endure the profound and characterizing beauty of our city being torn to shreds without our consent and without being afforded the slightest possibility of restraint or reversal. I could supplement these examples with dozens of the most cruel kind. For this reason, we ask to be spared all sentimental talk. Our generation does not wish its interests to be determined and controlled by any perfidious boomer. We are resolved to prevent the destruction of our city by a strange generation which, despite their lack of virtue and loyalty, was capable of snatching for itself all the leading positions in the land and to oust their nefarious influence. For it is our will to educate our own generation for these leading positions. We have no less than a dozen very intelligent children of peasants and of the working classes. We shall have them educated. In fact, we have already begun, and we wish that one day they, and not the representatives of an alien generation, may hold the leading positions in the city together with our educated classes. I think that the sooner this problem is solved, the better, for our country cannot settle down until the boomer question is cleared up. It may very well be possible that sooner or later an agreement on this problem may be reached in Europe, even between those nations which otherwise do not so easily come together. The world has sufficient space for more old folk homes, but we must once and for all get rid of the opinion that the boomers was only created by God for the purpose of being an infectious and power-hungry parasite living on the body and the productive work of other generations. The boomers will have to adapt themselves to sound nation-building activity as other generations do, or sooner or later they will succumb to a national collapse of an inconceivable magnitude. The generations are no longer willing to be crushed in the wake of the boomers' economic disaster so that this unstable generation may profiteer from a war or satisfy their own beer-rounded bellies. It is time to oust the boomer and rebuild this once shining pearl, our home,